What is up, everybody? It's your favorite host, Christopher Rennie, with the Chris Rennie Show. Welcome you in for a Wednesday edition pre-Thanksgiving. We're going to get into the history of Thanksgiving football games on today's episode and how the Cowboys decided they wanted to be the team that played on Thanksgiving. We got 3 games tomorrow to get us ready for the weekend. And then we're going to get into the college football playoff. I am going to power rank the 7-3 teams, maybe not with numbers, but in potential to make the playoffs. And that's probably it for today. No plan, all conversation. Just listen to me speak, and you're going to be amazed. That's what you get when you come to the Chris Rennie Show. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chris Rennie CFP, and don't forget to go listen to my Ohio State football podcast at Buck Off Pod. All fun, all sports, the opinion that matters. The Chris Rennie Show. Enjoy. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that. Make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. So, Thanksgiving's tomorrow. I am a big Thanksgiving guy. It's one of my favorite holidays. I think it's one, most years you get to be with family, you get to be with friends, close individuals to your life, and you get to enjoy a turkey. You get to enjoy sides you just usually don't have. Maybe mashed potatoes is the only one I have on a regular basis away from Thanksgiving, but really I'm not even that regular. I don't have mashed potatoes that much. I'm not a big green beans guy. That's the only other one I think about when I think about outside of Thanksgiving. Not a big green beans guy. I like Thanksgiving, though. I like the idea of it. Eating a bunch of food, engorging yourself into food that really doesn't make any sense together when you think about it. Who would eat cranberries with turkey? Are we being sort of manipulated into this weird food as like a social experiment? I don't know. I don't want to look into it that way. I just want to see it as I don't even want to look at it as old Thanksgiving, Indians, people. I think this has become more of a family holiday. I don't think it needs to represent history. I think there's a lot of questionable aspects about the history of Thanksgiving that, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough back then. Smallpox, all that. So I think we've moved past it. I think Thanksgiving's still a great holiday. I think it's a family-oriented, friend-oriented holiday where you get to spend time with people you care about. You get to give thanks for things in your life. And I'm thankful for the individuals who give my shows listens and appreciate the time I spend putting these in and provide me with questions that they want answered. On the Chris Rennie Show, I answer as many as I can, but I really just come here to talk about what I want. The show's my name. I appreciate it. This has become a show where I like to experiment with my bits, experiment with my takes, experiment. There is so much that goes on in the sports world, and doing 2 shows a week for an hour is not enough to cover them all. So today we're going to talk about Thanksgiving football. And I was reading about this story this week. It came to my mind. And the Cowboys' Thanksgiving tradition is as old as they come. And, I could just give you the short story right now. It was about money. It was about money 100%. They wanted to get more eyes on a national television spotlight to the Dallas Cowboys. A very, very straightforward goal. But when you think about why there's NFL on Thanksgiving, there has been an NFL game on Thanksgiving since its inception in 1920. All right, so it's crazy. The Lions since 1934 have played. The Dallas Cowboys have hosted since 1966, with two exceptions, 1975 and 77. There's been a third primetime game added, so that's more the traditional Thursday night football game at this point. It's usually between two rivals this year. It is the Ravens-Steelers, so it should be an electric football game. The Ravens are down some staff members and players due to COVID, so it's looking like the Steelers are going to extend their unbeaten streak, and the Ravens are going to fall to 6-5, giving the Browns a 2-game cushion in the playoffs. So the bias is coming through. The partiality got a little excited when I was reading through that. You know, the Browns are 7-3 this going into this week. It's game time. All right, but back to the story. So I don't really care much about the game results. I don't really care all that much, but there's been traditions that are around Thanksgiving. Yale and Princeton, Ohio State, and that team up north are the weekend after, the first Saturday after Thanksgiving. And then in pro football, to me, it's always been the Cowboys and Lions play on Thanksgiving, so I got 2 games no matter what. In 2012, they added the division rival. But several other NFL teams played regularly on Thanksgiving in the first 18 years of the league, including the Bears and the Chicago Cardinals. The Bears played from 1934 to 1938, while the Cardinals switched to the Green Bay Packers for the 1935 and 34 and 35 seasons. Okay, so a lot of teams that weren't really real anymore. So the Buffalo All-Americans, the Pottsville Maroons, whatever you want. Football was different at the time. Obviously, the Canton Bulldogs, even after the team moved to Cleveland, they played the 1924 Thanksgiving game in Canton. The New York Giants, 1929 to 38, who always played a crosstown rival. And the first owner of the Lions started the tradition of the Thanksgiving Day game as a gimmick to get people to go to Lions football games and to continue a tradition by the city's previous NFL teams. What differentiated the Lions' efforts from other teams that played on holiday was that Richards owned radio station WJR, a major affiliate of the NBC Blue Network, the forerunner today's American Broadcasting Company, ABC. He was able to negotiate an agreement with NBC to carry his Thanksgiving game live across the network. During the Thanksgiving controversy in 1939 to 1940, the only 2 teams to play the game were Pittsburgh Steelers and Philadelphia Eagles, as both teams were in the same state. So it's awesome. It's all about the business side of things, and this is early indications of the capitalistic aspect of the NFL. You know, they're here to make money. They're here to put their content on national airwaves. You know, what really is going on Thursdays. You know, this is a great opportunity for us to market our football team and our football program, because a lot of college football teams have jumped on this bandwagon, and a lot of them are playing on Thanksgiving now. So you go through and you start looking at why it's the Cowboys and why it's the Lions. The Lions, tradition, 100%. The Cowboys financially saw this as an opportunity to increase their image as America's team. They said, you know, we are already one of the biggest brands in the NFL. Let's expand our outreach on Thursdays, give kids an opportunity to watch us and create a family tradition, and let's make the most of it. That's what it's all about. And that's the history of this. It's really just one of those things. You know, the Cowboys wanted to make money. They are a team that wasn't very good at first, like most expansion teams aren't, and they have historically been successful. The Cowboys aren't going anywhere. There used to be complaints about the fairness of 2 teams playing an annual Thursday game, while almost every other team, it's games on Sundays and Mondays. Fans also didn't like being stuck with the same teams, especially when the Lions are struggling every year. But the addition of a third Thanksgiving game in 2006 and expansion of Thursday Night Football to spread out midweek games throughout the NFL means the Lions and Cowboys tradition of being on your TV on the holiday is here to stay. And then we all know the best part about this. The Sunday Night Football game, the one Chris Collinsworth, Mike Tirico are going to be on. I think it's Yeah, that's who it is. And they're going to call the game. They're going to enjoy their time calling the game. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be exceptional. The turkey leg at the end. Oh, man, I miss turkey legs. But yeah, so tomorrow we got the Texans, Lions, Washington Cowboys, Ravens, Steelers. So you got 2 rivalry games and then a very random game. It could honestly go either way. Matt Patricia's team's been the most inconsistent team in all of football. The Texans don't have any talent, really, besides their 3 stud players. It's going to be an interesting dynamic this week for sure when it comes to Week 12 games. But I'm excited. We got football tomorrow. We got college football tomorrow. We've got a lot of football tomorrow, and I'm going to get more into the NFL when I circle back to it. But before we get to that, did you guys see those rankings last night? The college football playoff rankings. So, the first college football playoff rankings have been Jack. They have never really resulted with the number 1 team being the champion. The first year, Ohio State was a 16th ranked team, so that would be Wisconsin this year. A little bit more time between then and, 3 weeks. Anything could happen in 3 weeks, 4 weeks with the conference championships. So anything could happen. There's still a long season left, all right? But I think what we have to evaluate here, and, with this show, I usually try to take big picture and make it smaller, all right? And on Buck Off, I try to take the small picture and make it more bigger and overarching and why it affects the greater world around. But why is the greater world around being affected this way? Let's find out. Let's dig deep into the committee. The committee itself is made up of individuals, all right? Individuals innately have bias. This is like the basis of all communication studies. This is it's implicit biases. All right, you don't know you have them, but you do. So when you have these level of biases that all humans do, we even saw it with the AP poll when we were monitoring who was rating Ohio State bad, who was rating Alabama bad, who was rating Clemson bad. There's people who are out there that look at a team and see the jerseys, the scarlet, the gray, the orange and white helmets, the ugly crimson uniforms. The list goes on and on and on about the biases people may have and may perceive when they look at a team. So when I look at a Southeastern school, my implicit biases are that the level of intellect in the South is very low. When people look at Northern schools, they think those liberal chotches, all these other words, I don't know. They have biases. They don't like us. They think we're slow. They think we are the dumb ones. They think that, there's biases, north-south biases. It started a whole war, if you guys remember. But in college football, those are real. They are real. And when you have a committee of a playoff committee, those biases are going to be, they're going to be there. All right. So I just want to evaluate the rankings as they are now. All right. So when I look at a college football playoff right now, all right. So you got Alabama 7-0. All right. They had a close game. They did against Ole Miss. It was a struggle. They got through it. They've been extremely dominant since then. No complaints. Alabama, the number 1 team in college football. I have no issues with that. Notre Dame, 8-0. probably has the best individual win on any resume so far this year in the overtime win against Clemson, and Clemson didn't even have their quarterback. So it's interesting. That will be something that is monitored because the team following them is Clemson. So Clemson rewarded for a 6-point win against Boston College the last time we saw them, and a loss. So that's where I'm starting to become thinking this is circumstantial. I don't know how they see 7-1 team who barely skated by, hasn't been a very elite team, has a lower strength of schedule than a lot of teams behind it, because you might as well put Texas A&M at 3. You might as well put Florida at 3. You might as well, if you're going to rate and give credit for the loss, Texas A&M's got the best loss. They lost to Alabama. So is that how we're doing this? Texas A&M's been much more dominant than Clemson in a lot of their games this year. Last time I saw Texas A&M play, they were putting up like a 50 spot. So that leads me to these questions. Florida, their defense, questionable. 6, I think 6 is fine for them. Cincinnati, 7, 8-0. That is the highest rated group of 5 team to ever start in a college football playoff ranking. With 3 games left to go, one against a top 25 team, there is a lot of potential for Cincinnati to make some moves because Florida's going to have to play Alabama. Texas A&M, we know how they are historically. They are going to fall apart in one of these games to close out the season. One of Clemson or Notre Dame has to lose. And even if it's not in the conference championship, one of them will lose again in the conference championship. Ohio State, their defenses look sloppy. I'm going to take out the partialness to it. Ohio State's at 4 because of everything they could have controlled. Okay? I am here to say Ohio State did have a top 10 win. All right, they won by 7. All right. Clemson has a top 10 loss. They lost in overtime without their quarterback on the road. All right, so you're going to reward a loss over a win. All right, I get Clemson's played more games. They've got a little bit more of a resume. But at the end of the year, all things considered, it's going to work itself out. And then the one that I have the biggest issue with, Northwestern 5-0 at number 8, awesome, great for Northwestern. The Fighting Reese Davises, they really heard that and they really went after it. Thank you, Joey Galloway. Your reverse psychology worked once again. All right, Georgia, 5-2. This is ridiculous now. This is horrendous. This is one of the worst rankings I've ever seen. They've lost their 2 games by double digits. They've had one offensive performance, and the one time they had a quarterback show up and play productive football, they only won by a touchdown to a very average football team. So let's move them down, okay? Oklahoma, they've been getting hot. They're the best 2-loss team in the country right now. Miami should be 9. I'd say even move Indiana in front of Georgia. 4-1, they lost to the number 2 team in the country. Or number 4 team in the country. Apologies, I'm just, you see that. And then BYU, 9-0, has been the most dominant team I've watched all year. Yes, their schedule's terrible, not their fault. But I'm disappointed for the Cougars, man. They have done everything they can. They have blown out teams. They have fun. They have an elite quarterback. They have an elite offensive line. Their defense plays extremely hard, extremely aggressive. That is a team that I look at that's not in the Power 5 conferences that I see as elite. I think this is one of the best G5 teams I've ever seen. Oh, I don't even know if they're included in the G5, but if Notre Dame, I think BYU could beat most of the teams in front of them. I think BYU beats Iowa State. I think BYU has a shot against Indiana. I think BYU shoots out with Oklahoma. I think BYU beats Miami. I think BYU hangs with Georgia. I think at the lowest BYU should be 10. I'm being 100% honest. 9-0 is impressive. I don't care who you play. 9-0 is impressive. Right? All right. And for the Pac-12, it was not the start they were hoping for. All right. Oregon a little bit higher in the AP polls, fell back to 15. Okay, USC's at 18. So the only solace they have right now in the Pac-12 is the fact that chaos is possible in front of them, and there's been teams that have started that low, not as low as USC. They'd be the lowest ranked team to ever make the playoff if they got there. But it is possible. It's not impossible. That is really what is important. And they've got a shot, and unfortunately for them, there's no 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. There's no others receiving votes. So we are just going to have to wonder who they have at 25. It could be anybody. And that's what I hate about this. With the AP poll, at least when you fill out your ballot, you have to put your 25. It's your 25, and then they award points per vote. And the first place votes get X. The second place votes get Y, Z, etc. All the way down to 25. So that's not the case with the College Football Playoff Committee. So when I look at the AP poll, I understand that it's still as biased, and there's still the regional stuff. The Pac-12, the West Coast teams always sort of get overlooked. I understand all of that, okay? It's why the superior system to all of this was the BCS computers. I know we hate computers, but you know what? The whole society we live in now is driven by computers, driven by our smartphones. It's driven by them because you know what? They're useful tools that do stuff that human beings cannot. Okay? What did the BCS do? They utilized metrics, ranking systems, and all that. Without bias, no eye test, all right? You want to throw eye test in, whatever. I don't care. I could look at Ohio State's team and be like, hey, yeah, no, that's the best team I've ever seen. Okay, I could be lying, but in my heart of hearts, I could believe it. I could go watch Alabama play tomorrow and be like, man, they're impressive, and just have that little bit of recency bias in my brain. Football teams are good. That's why we need at least 4. I am very anti-playoff expansion. I'm one of the few big-time college football fans that doesn't think we need more games. I think 1 out of every 10 years, there's more than 4 teams that legitimately have a potential to win a championship, that deserve a shot. But I think realistically, we've seen it time and time again. The 4th team is getting absolutely obliterated, and the 2 and 3 play a really tough game, leaving it to the number 1 seed having an easy shot to win it all. So I understand the implications of moving it to 8, but we should never go to 16. It's not the FCS. It's not. It's a different level of football. There are definitive differences between the 1 and 16 team every year, and it's pretty blatant for the most part. Ohio State played Indiana and was up 28-7 at halftime, and Indiana was a top 10 ranked team. Yes, Indiana made it interesting, but that was more on Ohio State than Indiana doing anything ridiculously special. So it's tough, but I think going back to the computer system is the way to do it. And some teams are going to get hurt a little bit more, some teams aren't. And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. Fans are going to be upset if they're not the number 1 ranked team. That's just it, point blank, plain and simple. The only fans that should be happy this week are the top 3 fans, and then, even Ohio State. We're at 4. We struggled. We did. We struggled in the second half. We struggled to close out games. All that was in our... We are... Ohio State's responsible for that. The struggles in the second half. If Ohio State closes that game out against Indiana strong, wins it, even if say they win it like 52 to like 25, 26, they score 3 touchdowns in the second half, they go for 2 a couple times, they don't get it. Ohio State is still the team in 3rd place. Okay, so I understand why the committee moved them down. They have a smaller resume. They've struggled a little bit early in the season, and they're going to be monitoring the secondary. So I expect if Ohio State has a dominant defensive performance with the criteria the committee laid out for them, that they're going to jump Clemson. Okay, and that's where I have the issue, because a computer would be like, beep, boop, bop, beep, boop, bop, beep, and then print out something, and then you got the rankings. I know it doesn't have to print out, but that's how they did it in like 2001. So I don't even really know what they did in 2001. I wasn't that old. I was like 5. Besides the point. Ohio State, their defense didn't play good. So Ohio State's defense plays good. Justin Fields bounces back. You're moving them back up to 3. All right? Don't make any promises. Don't tell a whole fan base that's the reason they're not there. If you're going to do it, just be honest. Just say it how you think you know it. Say it with your chest, Gary Barta, that you think Clemson's a better football team. Don't put all these little things out there that I know aren't going to change a thing, okay? They're not. If Ohio State's defense comes out against Illinois' magnificent, holds them to a shutout, Ohio State's offense puts up 77 points, they're not jumping back over Clemson. Are we joking with ourselves, Gary Barta? You lied through your teeth, and that's what the committee members do. They lie, and they protect themselves. And you know what? A computer is never going to lie to you. A computer is actually going to give you the uncomfortable truths because they don't care about feelings. They don't care about ratings. They don't care about their networks. And I know Gary Barta, Iowa, okay, I get it. I'm not even trying to be spiteful. I don't want any conspiracy theories. The committee is partial. That's the point I'm trying to make. The committee is going to evaluate and try to outthink the room because there are a bunch of people who are faux intellectuals that run football programs or elite level football coaches that want to be right. It's not about being right. It's about getting the 4 best teams in the right order. All right, and you might prove me wrong, committee. You might know more than I do. I remember you guys proved a lot of people wrong when you put Ohio State in at 4. It's a crazy world we live in. And once again, though, I think back all the way to that first playoff. That 1-4 game was epic. Ohio State versus Alabama. But really, Oregon had to play Florida State, and Florida State was a much more challenging opponent than Alabama was for Ohio State. I'm just going to put that out there. And once Ohio State beat Alabama, it was a pseudo-national title because Ohio State wasn't losing that game to Oregon. Not a chance. So, moving forward, I am going to be monitoring the committee's criteria for each team to see if the partiality and the implicit biases are still the case of the committee. Plain and simple. That's what we got to do. That's what they've brought me to. I'm going to be talking about this a lot on Friday. But let's not scorn anybody too soon. Next week on the Chris Rennie Show, I'll be ranking free agency acquisitions in the NBA. I've seen some that I like. I've seen some teams coming together. But, rather than react to every free agent signing, I just thought I'd wait till it slowed down. I know a lot of you like my basketball opinion. I am a very smart basketball guy. But I'm not a basketball guy. I'm not. It's not true to my heart. It's college football. It's the NFL. And then it's probably baseball than the NBA. I'm not a casual NBA follower, though. I hate NBA Twitter. I just hate... It's more the environment around it that I hate about basketball. It's just not me. I see guys like Kyrie Irving complaining about making so much money. I'm like, what in the world? And you didn't have to sign the contract, dude. It's just these people. They are NBA Twitter and NBA players are they're the dumb kids with the YouTube channel that go around and ask you a weird question. And they're like, oh, you didn't know the answer of 69 squared off the top of your head? And you're like on a YouTube video and they're like, oh, and then that's NBA Twitter. I finally figured out the puzzle. They like those videos too. And I think NBA players like those videos. You legitimately have athletes believing the earth is flat. You legitimately have athletes complaining about how much money they're making while signing contracts making that much money. I know Kyrie Irving's not donating all his money to charity. He donates a lot of it, though. He donated quite a bit to his high school in New Jersey that was about to close. That was actually a really great story. I applaud. But there are players there who complain about the money they make and still take every check. And it's hypocrisy. And that's NBA Twitter. Someone could be like, hey, LeBron's not the GOAT. Use XXX reasons. I'd be like, Jordan's not the GOAT. And I use the same reasons. And it's just really, it's not a conducive place for debate. It's not right. Okay. So I'll talk about NBA next week. Sorry about the rant. I saw NBA Twitter talking about free agents, and it was just such a level of stupidity. I could not engage. All right, so getting into the weekend, there is a common theme in the NFL standings this year, and I am very intrigued by it. Oh, and I'm gonna preface this. I'm gonna put this little segment before, okay? So, in the NFL, there's only 3 teams with records over 500 against teams with records better than 500. So, that means against teams with winning records, you've won more than you've lost. And those teams are the Bills. Those teams are the Steelers. And those teams are, I want to say the Rams are also in that boat. It's either the Rams or the It's either the Rams or the Saints. So, you're coming after 7-3 teams, okay? A lot of teams are 7-3. I think that is, at this point, the record most good football teams have. Down the stretch, gotta win. All right? Gotta win. Okay, and in reality, the way the NFL is designed is for the good teams to beat the bad teams and you to split games with the really good teams. And if you end up winning your games against the really good teams, you're a lock to go into that 14-2 range. All right? If you don't beat every really good team you play, you're in that 11-5, 10-6 range. If you beat more good teams than you play, then you lose to, then you're in that 12-4, 13-3 range. And if you split your games against good teams and you lose more against bad teams, you're probably in that 500 range. And then if you go 500 against bad teams and lose more games against good teams, you have a losing record. That's how the NFL is designed. It's always been that way. It's very straightforward scheduling-wise. The goal every coach has is to go 3-1 every 4 games. If anyone tells you they want to go undefeated, they are just saying that because you can't say you don't want to go undefeated. All right, everybody wants to go unbeaten. When you play 16 games against elite talent like there is in the NFL, it's probably not going to happen. All right, I don't think the Steelers are going to do it. I don't think these other teams are going to do it. But I do think there are a lot of positives to look at moving forward when it comes to the 7-3 record. So we're going to look at all the teams with 7-3 records, and I am going to put it into perspective, all right? 7-3 is not my favorite number set. My favorite number set's 11-5 because that gets the Browns into the playoffs. All right, 4-2 down the stretch. I think it's possible. I am in a land of hopefulness. All right, so first team on the list, the Green Bay Packers. All right, we're going to start in the NFC. Their most recent loss came against the Colts in overtime. They had a 28-14 halftime lead, and once again, Aaron Rodgers and co. could not close out a football game. So their wins are against the Jaguars, the 49ers, the Texans, the Falcons. They beat the Saints, so that's a good win against a winning record team opponent, and that was early in the year when the Saints were struggling. They beat the Lions, losing record. and they beat the Vikings, a losing record, and they lost to the Vikings. So, of their 3 losses, 2 of their 3 losses have come to teams with winning records. So they're 1-2 against teams with winning records. All right, they beat everybody else. 6-1. That gets them to 7-3. I think the Packers are legit, but I think they are missing a very important piece to a team that's trying to be great. Yes, Davante Adams is an elite number 1. But outside of Davante Adams, they do not have a definitive number 2 target. Robert Tonyan Jr., Aaron Jones, Equanimeous St. Brown. They have players, Alan Lazard, Mercedes Lewis. All right, you're joking. All right. Regardless. Their defense, much better. Christian Kirksey was a great addition. All right, Kevin King from Washington's been an awesome defensive back for them. They are Zadarius Smith's an all-pro type player. The Packers have a legit makeup on the defensive side of the ball. They have a very good offense, but when you get down, when you have that last-minute drive, for the longest time it was Jordy Nelson and Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers had his 2 targets, right? Now he's got Davante Adams. Yes, Marcus Valdez-Scantling made a phenomenal catch to get this game to overtime. Yes, he fumbled the ball to end the game. You can't really harp on the guy too much for that. I think they were going to go down and win the football game if he doesn't fumble that football. But I think I got to blame coaching on that one, and we are going to take the L there. The Green Bay Packers at 7-3 are still one of my favorites to make the postseason. They are in the lead of their division. I don't think their division's very much that difficult. So I think realistically, they're kind of the one shoe-in playoff-wise. They got the Bears behind them. They've got the Vikings behind them. Will those teams pursue? Yes, absolutely. I think the Vikings are the hottest team in football right now. They are a team that is going to get going. If they beat the Cowboys, I think they would be on their way. But they didn't. And the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs as well. They're the best 3-7 team I've ever seen. Sorry, Giants. But the Packers, I think they're assumed to win their division. So power rankings-wise, I don't really know where to place them because you haven't really seen anything like that. But I think they are going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to fall apart. And I think they have the makeup with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback to win a playoff game. All right. So the next team on the list, we're going to just go up the rankings here. We have the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are a very good football team. All right. They have lost to the Rams, the Bills, and they have lost to the Cardinals. So, in reality, they have beat every bad team they've played, once again. And they've lost to most of the good teams they've played, i.e. 7-3. It's amazing how this works, right? What do they possess, the Seattle Seahawks? The Seattle Seahawks have DK Metcalf, an insane human being. All right, they have Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks I've ever watched throw the football. And now they're establishing the run game with Bo Scarborough and Carlos Hyde and DJ Dallas and Russell Wilson getting on the action. But their team is made up of Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, old tight ends. But they are really only a 2-receiver team. If those guys don't get open, they have Greg Olsen, who's on the older side. They have quite a bit of talent. And, fun story, I played Greg Olsen's brother in junior college football. He was a very good quarterback. Could not stay off the weed, as Stephen A. Smith would say. Could not stay away from a wheel after he had an ounce of liquor. But super talented quarterback. And, the Seahawks have put together a very creative team. But where their issues start coming up is on the defensive side of the ball. They can't stop anybody. And I have a good friend who plays for the Seahawks. Childhood friend, Cody Barden. He is a big special teams guy. He's gotten into the rotation on the defensive side of the ball. They don't really have the back end that they used to have with the Legion of Boom. DJ Reed's been a solid player. But really, KJ Wright's getting older. Bobby Wagner's getting older. Carlos Dunlap's getting older. They got him for free pretty much. Just gave him away. And then Jamal Adams hasn't been as elite yet. I think he's still finding his footing there. But if I had to pick between the two 7-3 teams in the NFC West, you know what? I'm going with the other one. I'm going with the Rams. The Rams have shown an act to beat good teams. They beat the Seahawks. They beat the Buccaneers in back-to-back weeks. They beat the Bears, who are 500. They lost to the Dolphins. And they lost to the 49ers. I mean, they're kind of backwards, right? They're splitting games. They have beat the Cowboys, the Eagles. They lost to the Bills. They beat the Giants. They beat the football team. They were lost to the 49ers. What in the world is the Rams doing? So at 7-3, the Rams have been the one team that has gone against the formula. They have won an equal amount of games against bad teams as good teams. And that, to me, is mind-boggling. That is against the grain, for sure. And I think when you look at the NFL standings, the Rams are the team in the driver's seat for the NFC West right now. I think you look at their remaining schedule, it's very favorable. They got a rematch against the 49ers at home. They got the Cardinals. That'll be a tough one. But then they get the Patriots, the Jets, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. So it's actually much tougher down the stretch. They haven't played the Cardinals yet. But I think Aaron Donald's the type of player who's going to give Kyler Murray fits. I don't know if their offensive line can hold up against him. So the Rams also have the one corner, I think, who can match up against DeAndre Hopkins this year, and Jalen Ramsey. He's playing the best football of any defensive back I've seen in the last 3 to 4 years. Ever since he bullied Golden Tate for that one story, it's been just absolutely ridiculous. So I think the Rams are poised to make the playoffs. All right, so then we get to the AFC side of the NFL, and you've got the Bills, who are one game in front of the Dolphins. You've got the Browns, who are one game in front of the Ravens. And then in the bottom AFC South, the Colts and Titans are tied at 7-3. So the Colts and Titans are on opposite sides of the spectrums. The Colts started off at I want to say they were 2-2. They were a 500 type team. The Browns came in, beat the brakes off them, won in a shootout. So I think the Colts are poised. I think they've been much better this year than the Titans. Their defense is more legit, as you say. The defense is very good for the Colts. And the Titans, outside of when Derrick Henry has those monster explosions, they've struggled to not only hold on to the football, but to win on third down, to win on, Ryan Tannehill has been a much better quarterback since he's gotten to Tennessee. There's no question about it. But the problem with Ryan Tannehill is he's not the type of quarterback who's going to beat you and beat you and beat you. Unfortunately, the one game I did see them lose and I watched almost in its entirety, Ryan Tannehill delivered 2 huge dimes and A.J. Brown dropped both of them. So I think they need to find that consistency if they're going to want to win it. But in the complete realistic mindset of the NFL, I think the Colts, Phillip Rivers, I still think is a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. I think he makes more winning plays than Ryan Tannehill. He also makes more losing plays, though. I think the Colts have a very good set of weapons in the backfield. Outside at receiver, Michael Pittman's starting to develop. T.Y. Hilton's starting to get back on track a little bit. But where their money is made is on defense, with Darius Leonard leading the way. And I think they are going to continue to dominate defensively and win games because of that. I think the Colts are going to win the AFC South. I think the Titans still make the playoffs, so I still think they're both playoff teams. I just think the Colts take it from there. And then, the Browns, my personal favorite team in the league, lifelong fan. 7-3, best start since '94. Party like it's before I was born. Let's go. The Browns. All right. 7-3. 5-1 at home. They have loved that Cleveland weather. The only team in the world who would. Because they hammer the ball with Nick Chubb, and they get after it with the offensive line. And, we hit a little bit of a slump when our offensive line was out. We had a lot of injuries. When we played the Raiders, our team was beat up. I think the Browns are a better football team than the Raiders. All right, so where are the Browns' deficiencies? Well, the secondary, it's awful. And now Denzel Ward's out with a calf strain. A lot of trouble on that. A lot of trouble there. Myles Garrett's probably going to be back this week, we hope. If not, Browns probably going to have to play a shootout. No questions about it. All right, so the Browns at 7-3. Their remaining schedule. They've got the Jaguars. All right, so of any team to play when you don't have your secondary, the Jaguars is not a bad one. The Browns play the Titans, so that's a real moment of truth game, and they play the Ravens back-to-back. But then they got 2 more winnable football games against the 2 New York football teams, the Giants and Jets. And then the last game against probably Mason Rudolph-led Steelers. All right, so I think realistically, the Browns beat the Jaguars. The Browns play a coin flip of a game with the Titans. With what the Ravens are doing, I'm not going to put the cart in front of the horse, but I think the Browns are a better football team than the Ravens at this moment, right now. That first game of the season, yes, the Ravens caught us off guard. What they did worked. Our secondary was not ready. They had not come together yet. And that provided problems and issues. And Ohio and the Browns were kind of struggling early to find their identity. Well, the Browns came back. The Browns responded. The Browns answered. And now they got the Titans after they beat the Jaguars. What? That's 10-3. What am I thinking? I'm thinking 10-3. All right. And then you take that next game against the Jets. 13-3 is not out of the realm of possibilities. I think the Browns are going to go 13-3 and not win their division. That's my prediction. That's how I feel. And that's how I'm going to end the 7-3 rankings. The best 7-3 team in the football is the one you didn't expect. The Browns. Come on. We thought I was going to say anything different. And then it's the Colts. Then it's the Titans. Then it's whoever's in that sorry conference over on the other side of the NFC. All right. That's just the truth of the matter. Just kidding. I think if I really had to rank them top to bottom, I am going Browns 1, Seahawks Cardinals, or Rams Seahawks. Then I'm going Titans Colts, or Colts Titans, excuse me. All right, that was a terrible ranking. We didn't write them down. Should have written them down as I was going through. Didn't have a pen. It's all good. You guys get the gist. The Browns are the best. They're my favorite team. Completely biased. Implicit biases. We've got a theme to the show. All right, and that's going to be it for today. All right, I don't care who's going to win. I don't care who's going to lose as long as Ohio State comes away unscathed against Illinois and the Ohio State Buckeyes move up in the rankings, okay? That's my life now. All right, to close out the show, I want to give you guys a message. The holidays, they are tough on some people. They're supposed to be they're supposed to be joyous, they're supposed to be a happy time for people to re-engage with their family. But in a time like this, in the pandemic we're in, a lot of people aren't going to be able to travel to the places they normally would. They're not going to be able to continue to have their normal, regular family traditions. And that's going to be hard on some people because some people really do want the regularness to come back. And, you may not know what's going on in someone's life. You may not know what's going down. So if you have a friend who's down during the holidays, make sure you reach out. Make sure you acknowledge them and make sure they feel like they are important and thankful, and you're thankful for them. Because in times like this, the suicide rate goes through the roof during the holiday season. And it's an unfortunate side effect of the opposite of joyous and fun. It's not good tidings, it's sad tidings. And unfortunately, It is a real part of the world, and I don't want to have to deliver this message every year. I think the holidays are a time to provide joy to the people who might need it the most, and I just want the rest of you guys to take it with me and make sure you reach out to the people you're close to and the people that you're friends with to make sure that they feel like they have somewhere to go, and make sure they feel like they have someone in their life that cares about them, because it's important. It really is. And I've ended both my shows this week so far with that message. Thanksgiving is the start to the season. Christmas and New Year's are the end of the season. It's a lonely time. It really, truthfully is. And I think there's a lot of people who need who need someone at this point. So while you're watching football on a Sunday during this season, make sure you reach out to your friends. Make sure you make them feel welcome. Make sure you're talking to them about what they like to talk about. Because those are the things that give us a reason to keep going every day. Sports, family, friends, and when you lose a family member, when you lose a friend, it makes it that much harder on yourself and in your own life. And I can't imagine the pain someone would have to be going through to get to that point. But people do, and it's unfortunate, and it's a part of society, and we need to make sure those people are recognized and that they're reached out to and they are provided with the right resources. So reach out to the people you love, reach out to your friends, reach out to people who've been through something, because it's a tough time. It is. And you just got to say happy Thanksgiving. You got to say happy holidays. It'll help. It does. And it's a small thing that goes a long way. So if you are feeling charitable, donate some clothes to a needy family, donate some Christmas presents. There's a lot of ways you could help out during the holidays. And I think on my page we'll do a gift drive, maybe. I hope we'll figure out something. I just want to make sure that those in need are getting met. I asked my girlfriend, this is actually a funny story to close out the show, to get away from the harshness of it. But I was like, I saw the people in the Salvation Army outside, and I didn't know it was a corrupt organization. But I saw the person ringing the bell, and I'm like, I wonder if the Salvation Army needs Santa. And I think I'd be a good Santa Claus. So if anyone needs a Santa Claus, you guys know where to find me. I'm here. I don't have enough money to fly out, so if you do really want one, you're going to have to fly me out. But I won't be bad Santa. I'll be good Santa, I promise. And that's how I'm closing out the show. Love you guys. Appreciate you. I'm thankful for everyone who listens to the show. I'll be even more thankful if you give me a Thanksgiving 5-star rating saying how thankful you are for me. And lastly, I just want to say subscribe to the podcast. Follow me on Twitter. Chris Rennie, CFP. And hopefully you enjoyed the show. Adios, muchachos. Have a happy Thanksgiving.